Let's start kind of a little bit breaking down the matchup coming into this 2025 season. What are some things that you look at and you're like, okay, this is a clear advantage, or you think it should be an advantage for LSU? And what's another thing you look at and it's like, okay, that scares me?
I think the biggest advantage for LSU is the fact that you're in Death Valley. You're in Death Valley. Yeah. You have probably a better quarterback, because I think it's just in terms of experience and production. And then you also have a better head coach. When I think of three things when it comes to, I determine, okay, who's going to win this game? Quarterback, head coach, and environment. And I think LSU has advantage all three of those. And that's not disrespect to Florida. I just think it's hard to beat LSU at night, right? Under Brian Kelly, LSU's only lost one time at Tiger Stadium at night, and that was against Alabama last year. And that's because, for some reason, Jalen Milroe because Michael Vick whenever he plays LSU. It's like what Jane Daniels was to you guys is what Jalen Milroe was to us. But an even worse scale, because Jalen Milroe was not a good quarterback, period. Jane Daniels was a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, the number 2 pick in the draft, and looks like he could be the face of the NFL if everything works out, right? Because he had an awesome rookie campaign. But it's just really hard to beat LSU at Death Valley. And you guys know this. I mean, you guys are Florida fans. I mean, you guys got a lot of games at night at Tiger Stadium. It's hard to beat LSU at Tiger Stadium. Oh, remember that time? That was 2016, wasn't it? That was
that was the last time. That was the last time, and it was also a day game. I'm trying to think. The last time Florida beat LSU at night in Death Valley was probably 2009.
2009, yeah. 2009. I
Wow.
mean, it's been it's going up that like it's been a really long time. I mean, Florida's only won one time, because I remember they won in 2016, but other than that, that's the only time they've won in Death Valley. I mean, they won in Death Valley in 2009, and they won in Death Valley in 2016. That's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Even Florida has a losing record against LSU at Death Valley the last 15 years. It's an extremely hard place to play for anybody, right? I mean, even night or day, Brian Kelly's only lost twice at Tiger Stadium. He lost against Tennessee in 2022, and Tennessee looked like they had a 2019-esque season, and that was the week before they beat Bama, by the way. And that's how I knew they were going to beat Bama, because they dominated LSU that day. And then, of course, last year against Alabama. Those are only two times. So, I mean, if you look at, LSU probably plays, 7 home games per season. I mean, I would say, if his record was, 18-2, whatever that is, may be at Tiger Stadium. So it's a really tough place to play. No matter who your head coach is, right? It really doesn't matter. I mean, it's historically been a very tough place to play, and you can make a case it is the toughest place to play. It just is. I mean, when, like I said, it never rains at Tiger Stadium. I mean, it's just something mythical about that stadium. It just is. I'm not saying that from an LSU fan perspective, or LSU journalist perspective. Even before I went to LSU, and I mean, you can talk to any fan around the country. There's something mythical about the place. There's not many stadiums around the country that have that mythical feeling about stadium. I think when I think of mythical feelings, I think about Jordan-Hare Stadium, about all the crazy stuff that's happened at that stadium. I think about the Big House. I think about even your stadium, the Swamp. I mean, there's very few stadiums where damn, this place, something's up with this place. I don't want to mess with it.
Yeah, I mean, I was there in 2019, and it was
me too.
For the Florida game. Oh, you were at that game too?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that was as good a home atmosphere as I've ever seen in college football. So, I mean, there's no doubt about that.
And I remember,
what do you?
I'm sorry, yeah. So, but I was gonna say, but in 2022, when Alabama played against LSU, the fog was coming in, so you just knew, all right, what's going on here? I don't like this feeling. And I'm an LSU fan. I was like, why is there fog in stadium? Of course, they ended up winning in overtime. But, it's just a mythical place. But you can go ahead, Tyler.
All right, so you got what you think you have an advantage of. Home field advantage. That's a clear advantage for you guys. QB, I think that's a pretty close debate there. And, a lot of people love Nussmeier. I'm not on the Nussmeier train as much. So that's a push, I guess you could say, according to some. And then coaching. I mean, yeah, Brian Kelly's been one of the most successful coaches over the past 15 years now in college football. And Billy Napier has only had one winning season in the SEC. So there's a big discrepancy there. But so what do you look at now and know is like a clear, like, okay, if we lose this game, it's probably because of that.
Offensive line. Again, I think if you're going off of right now, let's say the offensive line, because I have no idea what the offensive line is going to be. I do trust Brad Davis. I do trust his recruiters. They're awesome recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
He's been a great recruiter for LSU. Like, this is the first time in a while where LSU is just dominating recruiting trail for offensive linemen, right? And a lot of that is because there's better offensive linemen in Louisiana than it has in the past. Like, Louisiana has not been a place where offensive line just develop and then just pop out. Nope. Like, there's been a lot of offensive linemen that have been developed here in Louisiana, but it's not just offensive line, it's also quarterbacks too. That's something you really haven't seen from Louisiana in the past. But also his national recruiting has been awesome as well. But the issue is it's just hard to replace Emory Jones and Will Campbell, who have literally started every single game from the time they were freshmen. Like, Will Campbell started every single game but two. One was when he went to the hospital the day before the Tennessee game, and then of course the bowl game opt out last year. Emory Jones has literally started every single game since week 3 of the 2022 season, and that's when they played Mississippi State. So I mean, it's hard to replace two guys who started 30 plus games for you on the two ends. But not only that, you're replacing 4 of your 5 starters from last year. So that's the biggest question mark I may have when it comes to the Florida game. And like I said, I really won't feel comfortable about this LSU team until I see them against Clemson. Because you still got to play 2 more games before you get to the Florida game, of course. And I think the same thing goes for Florida, too. I think we both want to see what our teams are going to like when the first game is played. Because, we go to spring practice, we go to fall practice. Yeah, they can tell you a lot of things, but you won't know till they play another team. The last year, we all thought LSU's offensive line was the best in the country. Sure, you can make a case for the best pass blocking unit in the country, but when it came to run blocking, they weren't. And we didn't get a chance to see that because all indications showed that the offensive line was performing at a high rate during fall camp. But spring game and fall camp, you're just scrimmaging against your other teammates. So you may already know their strengths and the weaknesses. While if you go up against Clemson week 1, you have they are bringing back a lot of talent, but you have no idea what they're going to throw at you, right? So I think if the Florida LSU game were played tomorrow, I think the biggest disadvantage will be the offensive line. I think I like Garrett Nussmeier. And you've seen this common trend among LSU quarterbacks. Year 1, they look so-so, and then year 2, they blow up. And really, Garrett Nussmeier's first year as a starting quarterback, he actually had a way better first year than Joe Burrow and Jay Daniels. People forget both those like Joe Burrow had looked terrible at times during the 2018 season, his first year as a starting quarterback. There was 4 games where he completed 50% or less of his passes in 4 games that year. He went the entire month of October without throwing a touchdown. Jay Daniels at times, looked terrible, right? There's 2 games, I think, that year where he completed under 50% of his passes. I mean, at times he just looked more like a running quarterback than an actual, I'm going to throw for 4,500 yards, right? And then the next year, we all both know what happened. So Garrett Nussmeier, I think, is going to take that next step because he's already had everything thrown at him. I think I like a running back room. I think I like a running back room a little bit better with Caden Durham coming back, and then also Harlem Berry had looked fantastic in the spring. I think over time he's going to have a much bigger role in the running game. Receivers, I have no issue with receivers because LSU historically forever has produced a lot of great receivers. The defense, I think, looks a lot better. The one concern I had about the defense is the safety spot. But with the transfer portal and who they brought in, I feel a little bit better about that. But if there's one position group where if the game were played tomorrow is the offensive line.
So we've talked about the quarterback comparison here. I'm kind of curious, sort of from afar, but also from watching the LSU Florida game last season. What are your thoughts on DJ Lagway and how he kind of developed through his true freshman season, coming in as a starter?
Yeah, I really liked DJ Lagway, and I like both the quarterbacks for Florida. I mean, I know people had some criticisms about Graham Metz, but I think both quarterbacks gave Florida a chance to win games. But I think DJ Lagway, I mean, yeah, his number. If you look at his numbers, yeah, they may not look impressive, but if you look at the eye test, if you look at what he brings to your offense, he is a very athletic quarterback, 6'3", 240 pounds. He's a big dude. And not only when but it really, you kind of scared when he runs the ball because he's a big dude. But over the course of near the end of the season, he looked good. Although you could make a case that his production wasn't as strong near the end. But I think he will have a lot. People will feel a lot more confident in him because he played those last 4 games. You could kind of tell he was getting to the next step every single time, like a lot of young quarterbacks, right? You don't really expect young quarterbacks to have a breakout year. There's very few examples of that, right? Caleb Williams is the exception, not the rule. There's very few freshman quarterbacks that just have a fantastic year. And I think DJ Lagway, you could tell he has the potential to be something special. But then again, you can't rely on his talent alone. He has to be developed properly. Billy Napier still, he has to prove that he can develop quarterbacks at a high level. He's never really had the chance to do that. Remember, Billy Napier also got fired at Clemson because he couldn't develop the quarterback position. And then the second he left, Clemson's offense got better. So I think that's the biggest. If I had an opinion about Florida, I think the biggest question is how will they develop DJ Lagway? DJ Lagway is a very talented player, but they have to develop him and they have to play to his strengths and also kind of tinker with his weaknesses. He's always going to have weaknesses. But you have to find ways where, those weaknesses don't show up as often. You have to figure that out. I think the development is very key with DJ Lagway. He had a 12 touchdown to 9 interception ratio. That's not great. So you want to see him improve on that. But he has to develop as a passer, right? I think he could be a very special player for Florida. The high school rankings showed that. You saw some of his abilities last year, but he is the guy. He is the guy, and that's a mentality you have to have as a quarterback. You have to act like you are the guy. So if he has the mentality to act like he's the guy, and then the coach staff does a great job with his development, I think he could be a very special player for Florida. And Florida really hasn't had you can make a case for Kyle Trask, but outside of Kyle Trask, Florida really hasn't had great quarterback play. Right? It's almost really for Florida, both Florida and LSU, the biggest setback for both those teams was quarterback play. That has changed for LSU in recent times, but outside of Kyle Trask, Florida has been a quarterback graveyard. So can DJ Lagway kind of flip the script the same way that Joe Burrow and Jane Daniels did for LSU?
Yeah, I think I think you're giving Billy a little bit too much, not enough credit for his QB development. Not that it's been great. You mentioned his time at Clemson, but I think you go and look back to 2019 when he was the offensive coordinator for Arizona State, and that was Jaden Daniels' first year. Now everyone knows Daniels going to LSU and winning the Heisman, having one of the best seasons, but Jaden Daniels' freshman year at Arizona State, where I think they beat a top 10 Oregon team, where he had a phenomenal game. Daniels was really good his freshman year, and there was a lot of hype around him after that season. But then Billy ends up, or 2018, it was one of the two, I can't remember. But then Billy ends up leaving for Louisiana, and then things kind of just, for Jaden Daniels, he gets a bit worse. Production gets a bit down. And Billy had his guy at Louisiana, Levi Lewis, who he developed over time, became his quarterback. They won a lot of football games there at Louisiana. And then, Anthony Richardson, he wasn't able to really develop him here, but he has Shane Steichen, right? That's who the Indianapolis coach is, who's one of the most well-known quarterback developers in the country. And he hasn't really been able to get out of the AR either himself. So, and I thought he got the most out of Graham Mertz that he could, that really maybe anybody could. Remember, Graham Mertz at LSU turned the ball over a ton. And he went to Florida, and in a season and a half, he threw 5 total interceptions. Like, he wasn't a big play machine, but he was a really good game manager, I guess you would say. And, go from throwing like 20 interceptions to 5 total here. I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I also want to say, so Billy Napier became the head coach of UL in 2018. He was there. I was going to say 2017, 2018. So Jane Daniels became the freshman quarterback. He was a starter quarterback at his freshman year at Arizona State. That was Rob Likens was the subscribe. I should just want to make sure because Billy Napier. Yeah, the reason why I know this because Billy Napier was out here in Louisiana, so I remember like kind of the rise and all the UL fans, kind of trash talking LSU fans. Like the last time we played UL, we beat you guys 45-3, and y'all haven't played us since. So, I think if you just look at the quarterback production under Billy Napier, it hasn't been great. I think DJ Lagway can be the guy to flip the script. I think it's not even just a Billy Napier thing. I think it's just been a Florida thing. Outside Kyle Trask, there hasn't been a quarterback where like, yeah, this is our guy. Really, since Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow was like, yeah, this is the guy. Chris Leak. I think a lot of people forget about Chris Leak. Chris Leak was a very good quarterback, right? Chris Leak won the national championship at Florida under when Urban Meyer was head coach. So he was that guy. Florida, and like really, just even the 90s, Florida had like, this is our quarterback. This is our guy. We're going to throw the ball 50 times a game. You can't stop us. And I think Florida, like you need, and for Florida to be good, same thing with LSU, you have to have dogs, right? And can DJ Lagway be that dog? I want to see him be that dog because I think he can be a dog and he can be scary for everybody else, not only in the SEC, but around the country. Can you bring those dogs out? And the same thing for LSU. We're calling them dogs because you look at the production, but can you show that on the field? I think if you had to go play this game today, I think LSU would win like 38-31. I think it'd be a high scoring game. I'd see a lot of people showing 24-3 and like it's gonna be a low scoring game. I think it might be a little bit of a high scoring game. I think Florida is gonna improve offensively. I think LSU is gonna be great offensively. I think they'll be better defensively, but I think Florida has the skill talent needed to win games. But really, I want to ask you about your skill talent. How's the skill talent supposed to be? Because I think if you look at some of the great Florida teams in the past, they had awesome skill talent.
So we actually, like a month or two ago, did a video where we were discussing, is this the most talented team Florida's had since 08 and 09 when we had Tim Tebow and competing for the national championship? And the two teams that really competed with it was 2012 when we ended up going 11-2, and you'd think it would be the 2020 team because that was the team that made the SEC championship. We actually said the 2019 team because they had more defensive talent. And I ended up saying 2019. I believe Natuna went 2012, if I'm not mistaken. But I think the skill talent on this team is the best since that 2019 team. And are you talking more just like the receivers and corners and running backs and safeties, or do you mean like the entire team?
Like skill positions, you mean, right? Like running backs, receivers.
I would say on the opposite side of the ball. I would say that.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, you look at our running back position, all about Jaden Ball. What happened last year? He was a true freshman, 4-star running back. I mean, Cole Kubelik recently did his running back room rankings for the SEC. He had Florida at number 1. I mean, Florida has one of the best running back rooms in the entire country in the SEC, so we're really good there. The receiving room is it's interesting because we bring in Jermichael Sturdivant from UCLA, where he transferred to UCLA from Cal, where he had some really good production, like 800-900 yard seasons. Then goes to UCLA, only had like 300 yards last year. Now I talked to an NFL scout. He watched his game. He has Sturdivant as like a top 10 receiver in this upcoming draft. He's like, man, UCLA's offense was just horrible. Bad QB play, horrible O-line play. And Sturdivant's more of a deep threat, which you don't have the QB to make the throws. You don't have the O-line to give you time to let the route develop. So he thinks Sturdivant could be a really good receiver here, where Florida has one of the best offensive lines and QBs in the country. And then outside of him, you have Trey Wilson going into his junior year. Had a really good freshman season. I can't remember if he was all SEC freshman or not 2 years ago in 2022 or 2023. But like 600 total yards. He had some injuries. Then last year missed a lot of the season with the injury as well. If he's playing, he's going to be a pretty good wide receiver. We'll see how much he develops from a route running wise, but you're getting a good to great maybe receiver with him. And then the questions outside of him, you bring in 2 5-star freshmen. I mean, Dallas Wilson flipped from Oregon. He's the one who went for 200 yards in the spring game.
Yeah.
And then lesser known, Vernell Brown Jr., who was the third junior, I'm pretty sure, who was also a 5-star receiver, more of a slot guy, could back up Trey Wilson, another 5-star guy. And then the other guy we're looking at in this room, Aiden Mizell. He was I think he was just outside the top 100 a couple years ago. Speedster. I mean, if he put a little bit more weight on so he could be SEC ready. You saw him last year, torched Georgia on the 1 touchdown pass we had. He also had some big plays in the bowl game, had a big play against Mississippi State. I feel really good about the talent in this room. I mean, I like Billy Gonzalez, our wide receiver coach. I think the bigger question, you mentioned it, play calling. Are we going to have the routes that allow these receivers to get open, that allow DJ Lagway to make those tough passes that not many quarterbacks can? I feel like we have that offensive talent, the skill positions on the offensive side that are really fantastic. It's just, will Billy open up the offense, or will he give it to Russ Callaway, who, when at Stanford, ran the air raid? So will we see more? Because you have so much talent at receiver that you need to get these guys on the field. And you're not going to get them on the field when you're only running 2 receivers out there, when you're running 12 personnel sets. So I like the talent. It's just, will Billy let the offense do its thing?
Right. And look, I really hope this game is a lot like the 2000s, because I really hope that Florida can kind of bounce back and kind of bring back the magic in that LSU Florida. Because I feel like that was supposed to be the rivalry, but what happened was Nick Saban was a terrible NFL head coach. He's like, I'm going to become the head coach of Bama. But because I think if Nick Saban doesn't go to Alabama, LSU Florida will be the biggest rivalry for LSU, at least, because then we wouldn't have this debate about, okay, so who's our biggest rival? I think that's still a debate today. But I remember, as a little kid, I remember seeing Percy Harvin and Jeff Dents and Aaron Hernandez. Besides, on the field was a dude, right? And Riley Nelson. And I still say to this day, Tim Tebow is the greatest leader in college athletic history, right? All the personalities that he had to deal with and make sure they got their head straight and still was able to win 40-plus games as a quarterback is absolutely amazing. I said this on a different podcast, I think last year, where I said Tim Tebow is literally the Cyclops of Florida football, because Cyclops, of course, is the leader of the X-Men. Of course, the X-Men have all these different issues, right? You have a government that wants to get rid of them. You have some people that want to get rid of that try to kill them. Then you got the internalized pressure, because you got Wolverine wants to have your girl, and then Gambit's doing some crazy stuff, and you got to make sure to keep that stuff together. That's what I thought about Tim Tebow, and really, when I saw that documentary about what was the documentary on Netflix called?
Swamp Kings.
Swamp Kings. I was so disappointed. I'm like, yeah, it seemed more like an Urban Meyer rehabilitation doc than
it was.
Then okay, these Florida guys are crazy. I really want to see that. I wanted to be almost like the U, but for Florida football, because I love the U documentary. Documentary that Eastman did, part 1 and part 2, because they talk about all the crazy stuff that they did, and I want to see that from a Florida aspect, but we just never got, because the only way you're going to be able to get Urban Meyer on the doc is you talk about the good stuff, and I'm like, the second I saw him on the trailer, I'm like, yo, this is about to be a bad trailer. This is about to be a bad documentary. I was so disappointed. I really wanted to know more. I want to hear about the time Percy Harvin choked out his receiver. I really want to hear why that happened, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah, they definitely sacrificed, I guess, doing a project of journalism for access. That's what I tell people, when they ask me about it. I'm like, I mean, I loved it because I'm a Florida fan and was that was the formative years for me as a football fan, were those Urban Meyer teams. But like if you warrant, like I don't think it has a ton to offer you. I think it's mostly just fun to relive it as a Florida fan, which I agree. I think that was a missed opportunity because I think there are a lot of stories to be told, both good and bad, from that era of Florida football.
Yeah. And I remember they were doing the preseason stuff where they were like up early in the morning, they were like doing all that crazy stuff. And really like how they brought in like how the jump pass came about, like this LSU. I thought that was a really cool aspect. Also and my favorite part about the documentary was when LSU beat Florida in that 07 game. So one of the greatest games I've ever seen. To see the atmosphere, and like I know that was probably unfortunate for Florida, but like I mean, from both sides. I mean, I felt like that. Yeah, LSU won, but I felt like both sides kind of won because that was a classic. That was a traditional SEC game coming down the last minute, running the ball down your throat. That's classic LSU Florida. That's what I want to see in this year's game. I'm look, yeah, it is fun as an LSU fan to see LSU beat Florida, but you also want to see the games, be competitive, for the games to mean something. The LSU Florida has not meant something since 2019. I want the game to mean something because I grew up with the LSU Florida game meaning something. It meant, this is the first primetime SEC game of the year. This is the game that determines whether you win the SEC title. Or now in modern times, it's just the game that will determine where you sit in terms of the playoff race and stuff like that. I really want the game to mean something. As a fan, I'm pretty sure you guys want the same thing. And now there's a lot of people in the comments commenting right now. I think they want to see something. We all want to see this game mean something because right now our second biggest rivalry is A&M, and I don't like it because it's not. It's like it just seems manufactured. While Florida LSU was a genuine, it still is a genuine hate because it's not even just football. We see Florida in basketball. We have to compete against Florida in basketball. We compete against Florida in baseball and softball and track and field. Like this is they're the only team in the SEC, in my opinion, where you can make a case like, oh yeah, this is our biggest rival, even more so than Alabama. Alabama, they can become really good at basketball too recently, in baseball, kind of the same thing. Florida and LSU have always battled against each other. I think the rivalry, I think people forget how big this rivalry really is because Florida, you guys have Florida State and Georgia, LSU, we have no idea who it is. So I guess it's the next team on our schedule, but I really want to see this game, especially football, mean something because it truly does. And it used to. We haven't had it in a while.
All right, we'll wrap this up here with. So you cut out when we were discussing it. What is your favorite moment from the Florida LSU games over the past few years?
Yeah, I think it's the 2020 and 2021 because those were my first two games as an LSU student. 2007 was a great game. And I'll say 2016 was. I mean, yeah. Of course, LSU's on the losing. I got to throw in that game because there's a lot of drama leading up to the game because, of course, Florida didn't want to play the game because of the hurricane and blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, the way the game ended. And then Florida had brought out the Mike the Tiger skeleton because leading up to the game, Mike the Tiger died, so they brought the skeleton. Like, that was a lot of drama in that game. But that's I think those are my three that I remember. I would say 2010 is often forgotten about because that was the trick play on the field goal. And that was risky. In the swamp.
I was there.
Risky.
I was there. I was at that game. It wasn't fun.
And yeah, 2015 also, where you guys had to bring out the trick play. And that was the first game Florida played without Will Greer after his suspension.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. And that's the thing, too. Florida looked like it may have been the best team in the SEC that year because Alabama, they weren't sure like who the hell their quarterback was because it was like between Jake Coker and like Blake Barnett or whatever. And like, I still remember that. Like, but Florida looked like they were because they had a great defense. Will Greer looked like the best quarterback country. You guys are coming off of a upset victory of Ole Miss where you just put belt to axe. And then all of a sudden, boom, the PD stuff comes out. You're like, well, there's typical Florida again. Don't have a quarterback. Guess you got to bring out. What was the guy's name too?
Treon Harris.
Treon Harris, yes. So you had to bring up Trey Harris. It's like, oh, well, that's easy pickings for everybody else in the SEC because like he can run. That's about it.
He did throw
we
for
only
like 300
lost.
yards in that game. He threw for like
Yeah.
that was the best game. That was his best game
Really?
of his career. He was actually good. Like it was after that game that he started being bad. Like
Yeah.
Florida just couldn't stop
Well,
LSU in that game.
Right.
Treon.
Fournette.
Yeah.
Well, I was rewatching this. LSU went up like 21-7, like early in the second quarter.
Yeah.
And then Treon, there was like a bunch of wide open passes. Once to DeMarcus Robinson.
Mhm.
Jake McGee, I think, had 2 touchdowns in that game as well off some nice routes. And then we brought it back to tie it up like 28. And then LSU early in the fourth got that trick play on the field goal to score a touchdown. Then LSU's defense just shut us out the fourth quarter. And that really was what ended it. But, Grant, I'd like to say thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me at Chachere Grant on Twitter. Just my last name is spelled Chachere. But if you still have a hard time trying to spell it, just pull out your Tony Chachere's season out the cabinet and look at it. It's like, okay, Grant, Chachere. Boom. And but it's at Chachere Grant on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram at Grant Chachere. I'm pretty active on there. We actually do a live reaction video to the Super Regional after it's done. So if you're a Florida fan, want to see what's going on to LSU, probably not. I understand. So we're going to be live as soon as the game ends. But also, I think we're going to do something like this too. We're going to bring on different teams around that to see how they're doing, get different perspective because you got to find content, especially during the summer. Of course, you got recruiting stuff going on. You got to make topics as you go. But I think this is the easiest way to do so. I actually very appreciate me having me join you guys. I know you've been guys trying to do this for a little while now. I just got caught up with a bunch of stuff. Like I had to work one day, and then another day I had to cover a game, and then I had a family stuff going on. But this is finally just like, okay, now I can hit up Tyler so I can come on. But I really appreciate you guys having me on, getting in perspective from the Florida side as well, because I'm sure trying to catch up with everybody else in that scene. I've been so busy about LSU baseball and figuring out what's going on in LSU football that oh, wait, we got 15 other teams that we might want to look at too, because I think that SEC's gotten too big, in my opinion. I like how it used to be, where SEC had 12 teams and the Pac-12 was still in existence, and the Big Ten still had 11 teams to 10. So I missed that aspect of college football, but I guess we'll welcome in Texas, Oklahoma, and they bring in money to the conference. But even with the expansion, I still hope that LSU Florida is played every single year. I think it's a crime that this wasn't a part of LSU's rotation of games because of how big this rivalry has been the past 25 years. It is a huge rivalry, and I think it would be a shame for I understand maybe getting rid of the Auburn game. I get that, mate, and I get that, but you have to keep Florida in the rotation. I rather prefer a rotation of Alabama, Florida, and I could see Arkansas. Because to me, those are the 3 biggest rivals that we've had the last 25 years.
Absolutely. Thank you, Grant. I hope to see you when we get closer to the season. We're making official picks for this game. You said you have your show later tonight after the LSU. Who are you playing?
We're playing Arkansas Little Rock, so that's going to be easy picking. I mean, they beat them 7-0 in the first game, and I just think LSU right now, when you get in the postseason play, their bullpen tends to get better. I mean, you saw that. I mean, well, besides game 2 of the College World Series Finals where they gave up 22 runs out of nowhere, and that's probably because Jay just pined it. It's all right, we'll play game 3. But LSU's bullpen was fantastic throughout that postseason. They're fantastic last season, and I expect them to be fantastic this postseason as well. But their pitch has been fantastic. They just need to be better at the plate. That's it. But I think they're getting more confident at that. But it'll be live probably right after the game ends. I don't know when because it's baseball. But if you guys want to hop on, if you guys want to come watch it, if you're a Florida fan, you're more than welcome to do so. No hate involved. We'll welcome anybody. This is non-discriminatory space. You guys are more than welcome to come over, support your fellow SC rivals. If not, just go to bed. But then again, it will be midnight in Florida. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. Go to bed. You guys got work in the morning.
All right. Thank you, Grant, for joining.
Appreciate it.
We will be